Verifying.
Let's go.
You're about to experience action like you've never heard it before. Action sports, celebrities, badasses, and massive interviews. All coming to you from the Polaris Razor Studio. This is Jim Beaver's Project Action, exclusively on Podcast One.
What is happening? Jim Beaver here. Welcome to Jim Beaver's Project Action. Boy, do we have one heck of a podcast for you guys today, coming at you from the Polaris Razor Studio on the Podcast One Network. Really excited about today's guest. You know, when I started out this podcast, and we're talking back in the summer when Podcast One and I were talking about, where this podcast is headed, and that was before we even started, some of the guests I wanted to do. And, I've been doing racing and motorsport stuff forever, big action sports fan, big video game, pop culture fan, right? So I put out a list of all the guests that I wanted to have on the podcast. Like, not all the guests, but like a top 20, and slowly I've checked them off, A lot of them are good friends of mine. Ken Block, Travis Pastrana, my friend Jolene Van Butte. I felt like there was a bunch of stories there that I wanted to tell that hadn't really been told. I mean, you guys see the social media, you see the viral videos, but there was stories that needed to be told. And, one of the people that had no idea how to get a hold of her, didn't know a whole lot about her other than what I saw on social media and the stuff on IGN.com was Naomi Kyle. And Naomi, in the past 5 years, I've seen her career just literally explode, right? And now she's live streaming. She's doing some movies. She's just all over the place, right? And I go, this is somebody I'm following on social media. I'm a fan of her work, and I'm like, that is somebody I want to get on this podcast, I want to be able to tell the Naomi Kyle story. I want to dive deep and find out, what makes her tick, right? And so reached out to her, sent an email, and, lo and behold, I get an answer, right? And so her and I talked. We did an amazing interview that we're going to air in today's podcast. I think it's about an hour long that it clocks in at. And I got to tell you, we had one heck of a good time. And a lot of you know her. You would think that the entire interview is going to be about gaming, right? Wrong. We did almost an hour-long interview, and we barely even talked about gaming. Talked a lot about, United States and Canada, some of the differences, women in entertainment, a lot of action sports and motorsports tying with that. But it was a fun interview. Such an honor to have her on the show, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Whether you know who Naomi Kyle is or not, I know after this interview, you're really going to know her. And I think you guys are definitely going to go and follow her on social media, and she just she brings a lot to the table, and it was definitely a fun interview. So thank you guys that have listened to the show from the beginning. Some of you maybe because of this Naomi Kyle interview, it's the first time you're coming in here. Welcome to Project Action. It is the brainchild of me, Jim Beaver, and I got to tell you, I don't know what the heck this podcast is. It's a lot of action sports. It's a lot of racing, because I'm a race car driver. And then it's some pop culture and some entertainment and some music and some Hollywood and just whatever the heck we want to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about here on Project Action. Most of the time we keep it PG-13. Once in a while we throw a little, a few four-letter words in, but it's a whole lot of fun. And, we just have some rad people, and that's what this is about. It's all things awesome. It's rad people, rad interviews, and me sprinkling in some random talk about a whole lot of nothing. But thanks to all of you guys who have rated, reviewed, subscribed on iTunes. I appreciate it, man. We just keep clicking up those rankings, and and I appreciate it. I think seems like we're right in the top 20 there in sports and recreation, and I don't know. There's so many different categories this podcast could be plugged into, but we're always ranked in there in the top 20 against some really heavy hitters. So, thanks to all you guys who keep rating, reviewing, subscribing. I've made a promise to all listeners, and if you're hearing this, that means you. If you go and, you subscribe and then you rate and review, when you leave that review in iTunes, if you leave your Twitter or Instagram at username, I will follow you from at JimBeaver15. That's right. I will follow you back, but I got to see that review, and you've got to leave that Twitter or Instagram at username. If you don't leave it, I don't know who you are, and I can't find you. So you got to leave it in the review, but if you do that, I promise you I will follow you, and it ain't going to be one of those, I'll follow you, and then a week later I unfollow. Promise. I'm there for the duration, man. So if you follow me and you leave that review, I will definitely follow you guys back. My promise to you. And it's been a fun ride. Last week we had Sebastian Bach. I know we've had my friend Colette Davis, and she's actually launching. I got to give a plug for her show, Girl Starter, on TLC. It's kind of like the young girls version of Shark Tank. Anyways, had Colette on about 3-4 weeks ago. She was promoting her new show. Her and I have known each other for years. She's a race car driver as well. But anyways, that's dropping on TLC ASAP. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably debuted on the TLC network. But if you're a fan of Shark Tank, you definitely want to go and check out Girl Starter with Colette Davis. And skip back into the archives a few weeks and listen to that podcast. Seriously, it's bringing insane numbers in. But it was an amazing interview with a girl. She's in her young 20s. She's started like 5 companies. She's a serial entrepreneur. And, and the whole reason she became an entrepreneur was that so she could actually afford her racing habit. So she became an entrepreneur, made money so she could afford to go racing. So you got to love it. It was a fun interview. And, looking back, we had Sebastian Bach, frontman from Skid Row. Last week we had Adam Carolla a couple of weeks ago, my co-host on the national show, Amy Hood. She was on there as well. And speaking of Amy Hood, I got to throw my little Canadian sister under the bus right now. Made me feel a little bit important right before we came on the podcast. Got a call from the Canadian consulate. Yeah, I know we've talked about it on the national show. If you guys aren't listening to that, the Down and Dirty Radio show, it's all motorsports with the little action sports and sprinkles of pop culture tossed in. But that is on Tuesdays. You can listen to it on Podcast One as well. The archives or downanddirtyshow.com are like 700 networks in 177 countries. Yeah, we're all over the place. Very proud of that, by the way. We had like 17 listeners, I think, our first episode. So I'm telling you, you can do anything in this country. So it's great. You can grow something from nothing, and that's what we've done there. But anyways, she lost her passport, can't get home to Canada. So I got a call from the Canadian consulate today, and that's one of those formal phone calls, man. You kind of feel important when you get that, So I don't know. I'm feeling a little important rolling into this podcast today. So I don't know. Hopefully it comes through when you guys listen. But thanks to all you guys for listening. We couldn't do this without some of our amazing partners. One of those amazing partners coming on board is AMSOIL. Many drivers today are looking to move beyond stock performance. AMSOIL brings that spirit to engineering of their synthetic motor oil, combining top-tier synthetic technology with unique additives. The result is an oil capable of protecting your engine up to 25,000 miles or 1 year between oil changes. AMSOIL synthetic motor oil shields your engine from the 2 biggest bumps in the road, wear and deposits. Wear on pistons and cams can lead to a host of issues, including power loss. AMSOIL provides 75% more engine protection against horsepower loss and wear than required by an industry standard. Deposits on rings and pistons can lead to compression loss, compromising fuel economy and power. AMSOIL synthetic motor oil delivers piston cleanliness 93% above an industry standard. The proof isn't just academic. AMSOIL tests the field and on the track in extreme conditions using the most demanding high-performance engines available. Check out AMSOIL.com/Jim for more information. That was AMSOIL.com/Jim for more information. AMSOIL, devoted to protection. And also another one of our amazing partners on this podcast is Geico. And this is a 30-second commercial, only 30 seconds. So I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but please stay with me. In just 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. This company has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years. And anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. The company is Geico. Go to geico.com today. Sorry for all the numbers. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm out. That's got to be my favorite commercial out of all I do in 2 shows. I get to do that countdown there for Geico, and just always kind of fun. But, yeah, I got some amazing partners here on Project Action. And, we got that Naomi Kyle interview we're going to get to. I'm really excited to share that one with you guys. I know coming up in the next 2 weeks, After Naomi Kyle, I've got Antron Brown. A lot of you guys know him from NHRA drag racing. I'm not a massive drag racing fan, but I'm a massive Antron Brown fan. Dude used to race pro stock bikes at over 200 miles an hour, and now he's racing top fuel dragsters at over 300 miles an hour. Anybody that can go 300 miles an hour, like seriously, I want to get him on the show, right? And so we got Antron Brown on. And then following that, we got Ryan Dungey, one of the greatest motocross and supercross riders ever. I think he is going to be on tentatively in about 2 weeks here, so 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm just saying we're working on that one. I think it's going to happen, but it's going to take a few weeks to get that dialed in. But we're working on it, right? That was one of the requests you guys hit me up with. Last time I interviewed Ryan was like over a year ago, I think, and you guys hit me up. So we want Dungey back, and I think there's a massive story to tell right now with the Supercross finale going down in Vegas in 2 weeks. He's in that heated battle with Eli Tomac. So literally, we're bringing one of the biggest names. I mean, the guy was on a Wheaties box. If you're on a Wheaties box, that's a big deal, right? So we got Ryan Dungey. He is going to be on Project Action at some point. Probably use a little bit of it in the Down and Dirty radio show as well. And, I mean, I'm going to the Indy 500 here. I guess I got invited by my friends at Impact Racing. They make the helmets and the fire suits for the best drivers in the world. They invited me to the Indy 500 at the end of May. So we're going to be doing some radio and some podcasting from the Indy 500. We got some fun stuff coming at you guys here for Project Action. And man, this podcast has been a fun ride. It literally has been one heck of a fun ride, and I get to see the numbers every week and see you guys tuning in, and I'm like, wow, right? So just some random news. We got to throw some news in the mix here, coming out of I don't know, pop culture, and we got a little NASCAR news. And I know me talking NASCAR, right? I never talk NASCAR. I'm not a massive NASCAR fan. You guys know this. But Dale Earnhardt Jr., you want to talk about a big-name guy? One of the biggest names in all motorsports globally. I think he actually got voted that. The biggest name in motorsports worldwide like 2 years ago or something like that, right? He announced his retirement. Not immediate. It's going to be at the end of the 2017 season. To me, that's worth noting here, even though I'm not a big NASCAR guy. Dale Earnhardt Jr., that's a big deal, and he's still in his prime, right? He's had some concussion issues, and we hear about concussions in sports and things like that. Took a lot of time off last year. He's back. He's healthy this year, and it looks like this is going to be the swan song. So, if you're a NASCAR fan, I don't know. I follow him on social media, but, he's such a personality. He's got his own podcast, too. I think it's like Dirty Mo Radio or something like that, but he's got a podcast, but he's just a great personality. I know he's married, just got married, and so I don't know, props to him for deciding to step away. I know it's not an easy decision. I drive race cars, and I know I don't see retirement in my future anytime soon. One, I need the money, but two, it's just very, very hard. Think about your favorite hobby. Well, seriously, if you're a video gamer, think about video games. If you I don't know, man. Are you a professional wrestling fan, right? Maybe, that's one of your hobbies. You watch pro wrestling. Maybe you ride dirt bikes. I don't know. Maybe, whatever your hobby is. Maybe it's, I don't know, knitting. I don't know how many knitters we've got listening into Project Action, but whatever it is, to each his own, right? But think about your favorite thing to do in the entire world, and then all of a sudden just whack, cut it off. Just be done with it, right? I'm never going to do it again. That's a tough pill to swallow. That really is. If you're a video gamer, think about that. Tomorrow, or you're going to set a date, later this year. All right, October 31st, I'm quitting for good. Ever. Never going to touch it again. That is some seriously tough stuff to deal with, right? So you got to know him stepping away from NASCAR. So all he's ever known, his dad was, arguably the greatest NASCAR driver ever. And he decided to step away, and so he grew up. His entire life, from the time he was born, has been NASCAR. And so now he's going to step away. Like, it's got to be really, really tough on him. It'd be tough for anybody to step away from your hobby. Just cut it completely out. Never going to do it again. Very, very tough. So this is big news coming out of NASCAR circles, and he's one of those personalities. I don't even be a NASCAR fan. I think you've heard of Dale Earnhardt or Dale Earnhardt Jr., right? He's one of those transcendent personalities. You know what I mean? It's like Gene Simmons. I just went to a Kiss concert this past weekend, right? bucket list. Absolute bucket list. And just digressing here, if you haven't been to a Kiss concert, I don't care if you're a Kiss fan. I mean, who doesn't like rock and roll all night and party every day? That song, literally, it's been in how many movie soundtracks? I would say probably at least 50. But anyways, that's totally side note. Seriously, go to Kiss. Mind-blowingly good show. And it's not necessarily about the music. It's about the theatrics and the production. But Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, they're getting up there in age. I can't say they're going to be touring much longer, right? If you get the opportunity, go see the OGs, in concert. But Gene Simmons, he's one of those, right? If you're not a rock and roll and not a Kiss fan, you know who the heck Gene Simmons is. I mean, he's all over, right? You know Kiss. You know Gene Simmons. He's a transcendent personality. That's what Dale Earnhardt Jr. is. So, I don't know. It was big news anyways. It was definitely big news. Coming out of the motorsports world, right? And got to mention one of our other partners here on Project Action, TrueCar. In order to feel comfortable that you're getting a fair price, you need pricing context. Information that empowers you to feel confident. With TrueCar, you'll see what other people in your local market paid for the car you want. From there, you can connect with a local TrueCar certified dealer and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Using TrueCar, you can easily find the car that you want. TrueCar will show you what other people in your area paid for the car that you want. Now you'll know what a fair price is, and you can feel confident. Once you register, you'll see real pricing on actual inventory. Competitive pricing offered to you only by a TrueCar certified dealer from an actual vehicle on their lot. It's pricing that you'll see before going into a dealership so you can feel confident when you show up. With TrueCar, you can connect with a local certified dealer of your choosing and enjoy a quick, easy car buying experience. TrueCar customers are more likely to enjoy a faster buying process when they connect with TrueCar certified dealers. There's over 13,000 of those dealers nationwide, and TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. Everybody wants $3,000 in their pocket. Trust me, I know I do. You do. Everybody does. You know what? TrueCar can help you out there. So when you're ready to buy a car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states. And, speaking of cars and vehicles, you know me, I'm a big Polaris RZR guy. I'm an ambassador. Race the Polaris RZR Star Car. Also, I just voiced the new episode of our RZR Star Car kind of online reality series with myself and Jolene Van Vliet. That's going to be dropping here very, very soon. So, I don't know, probably within the next week or so. But you guys definitely want to get in on that. That's for sure. When that drops, I'll keep you in the loop. But definitely go over to Facebook and watch it. I think this next one, if you like the one from the Mint 400, you're really going to like this one from the UTV World Championship. And we had Lissa Ronick with ESPN, Sean Oshner with Dirt Sports Magazine. They were riding with me. It's definitely going to be a good one. It's got a different feel to it than the first one. I think you guys are really going to like it. But speaking of Polaris RZR, so I've got this brand new 4-seat Polaris RZR Turbo sitting in my race shop, right? And I was trying to figure out, I've done a 4-seat RZR build before. It was in the SEMA show a couple years ago. It was amazing, but I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do with this one. And I want your feedback. You guys tell me what I should do with it. What kind of build? I'm going to do something different, right? Not like full-blown off-road pre-runner. It's going to be something different. So I'm thinking, because I like to go to the skate park a lot, right? I like to go to the wakeboard park, right? And, at the river and the cable park. And so, I ride bikes a lot. So I'm thinking I'd build the ultimate action sports RZR. Nobody's ever done it before. I want to be the first. So I'm thinking this ultimate action sports RZR. So feel me out here, right? I mean, it's going to have really good suspension, cool wheels and tires. It'll look on point. We're going to wrap it. It'll be shiny, have cool lights and stuff like that. But what makes this the ultimate action sports RZR? So I'm going to have my buddy James Hill that built my race car and done some work for me at IMG. I'm thinking about, he didn't even know this. So if he's listening to this, James, just I threw it out there, buddy. You don't know you're building this yet, but you're going to be building it, right? So the ultimate action sports RZR, the back. So the back, I'm going to have actually on the cage work. I got the cage work in the back. I'm going to have a couple of bike racks where you can literally put two like mountain bikes or like BMX bikes on like this rack standing up, right? So it'll be able to fit 2 bikes on the back. So when I want to go to the skate park or I want to go, out, to bomb some mountains or whatever, right? You can have the mountain bikes there on the back, locked in, and you can take the Razor. You don't have to worry about throwing them in the bed of a pickup or in your car or whatever. You just take the Razor. In Arizona, they're street legal, right? So this is like second car to me, right? So we're going to have that in the back. And then also, the wakeboard cable park is like 1.5 miles away from my house. So I always got to throw my wakeboard in the Subaru, and then it's all wet afterwards, and you got to put towels down over the seats and all this other stuff. So, I'm thinking about my Subaru, saving the Subaru WRX STI right now, right? So I'm going to have a wakeboard rack built in between the 2 BMX bikes or the mountain bikes, right? So I can put my wakeboard in there, right? And then it just drips dry and everything else. So we're gonna have that in there. And then also I'm going to have him, I've got a longboard. I like doing a little longboarding, skateboarding. So I'm going to make a spot there, where I can actually put a longboard. So you can actually fit a wakeboard or a wake skate. I do both. You can have a longboard, a skateboard. I've got a couple of those, and then 2 bikes. So one for me, one for my daughter, maybe 2 bikes for me. I've got multiple bikes, whatever. But so I'm going to have all that in the back, right? So you can have literally all your weapons for action sports, so to speak. Then in the front, obviously, we're going to have a awesome stereo because if you're out at the skate park, you want to be able to hear some tunes, right? So I'm going to have Bluetooth stereo put in there so you can, use your iPhone or whatever and put the tunes. But then, obviously, if you're into action sports, you got to have the GoPros, you got to have the videos, and then your phone gets drained and, shooting pictures or whatever. So we're going to have a bunch of USB ports plugged in on the dash. So you can plug in GoPros and charge things. And I don't know, we're going to, we'll have a bunch of awesome seats in there. Cool lighting, maybe some lighting on the side. So, like, if you're doing a night session, you can have these big beaming lights out the back. I don't know. Like, I want to hear your guys' feedback on this. Is this like a pipe dream of mine? Am I just out there in left field? And I don't know. Is there some basis for this? You guys tell me. What do you think about this idea of the ultimate action sports Razor? I want your feedback. Let me know. Tweet me at JimBeaver15. And like I said, it's not starting next week. I got this other Razor build I got to finish first. So, we're going to finish that one up. This one's actually going to be for SEMA, and not for SEMA, but I think Sand Sport Show, and so I'm going to have it in one of the trade shows. It's going to do some traveling and stuff like that. So let me know on this other Razor what you guys are thinking if you like this idea of the ultimate action sports Razor. So, we got to get to this Naomi Kyle interview. There's a couple things. I'll bring in some pop culture into this conversation we got going on right now. Really enjoying Into the Badlands, the TV show. It kind of fills my void there of Walking Dead, but I'm digging Into the Badlands. I don't know if you guys have. It's in season 2. It's worth checking out. Let me tell you, it's different, totally different. I brought in Walking Dead just because it airs on the same TV network. And that's kind of how I got hooked into this a year ago. But if you like martial arts and crazy fight scenes and stuff like that, this is the show for you. And that's why I like it. I mean, the plot's all right. It's decent. They got this little internal war going between these different groups and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, the fight scenes, if you like martial arts and sword fighting and things like that, seriously, they are the best I've ever seen on television. So just got to give a plug there to Into the Badlands. And then you guys have been following this drama with me for I don't know how long, man. But remember, before the holidays, I was looking for that Nintendo Classic, right? We're going to bring some video gaming into this. I was looking for that Nintendo Classic Edition, right? Thing was sold out. It's like $60. Sold out everywhere. They were going on eBay for like $250. It was crazy, and I'm like, you guys are dumb. Don't spend $250. That thing after the start of the year, it's going to come down. They'll be on every Walmart and Target shelf everywhere, and you'll be able to get them for $50. Don't spend your money. Well, I ended up getting one, right? And I've played the crap out of that thing. Right, original Legend of Zelda, some of the Mario Brothers stuff. I mean, I've even found games that I haven't played in years, like Ice Climbers. Like, I don't know how the heck I've got into Ice Climbers. It's such a dumb game, but I don't know. I've been playing that, right? But I was saying it was like a big deal. Like, you couldn't find it. It was all over the world. People were standing in line for this $50, $60 Nintendo throwback. I was dead wrong. I said after the first year, you're going to be able to find them. They've still been sold out, right? Now all of a sudden Nintendo announces, whack, we're done with production. We're making one last run of them, and we're done. So everybody's like up in arms, like, hey, what's going on? This is a cash cow, and why are you doing that? And now come to find out, right? it's sneaking out that now they might be coming out with a Super Nintendo Classic Edition, which I'm pumped on because I played that too, right? But they haven't formally announced it, but that's the rumor. So maybe they're coming out with a Super Nintendo Classic. Who knows? Maybe after that it'll be like Nintendo 64 Classic. I don't know, but I guarantee I'll be lined up for this one too. It's got some of the greatest games ever on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm into the retro games, especially ones that I haven't played in years, like on the Nintendo Classic. But if you guys can find one, I'm telling you right now, buy it because these things are going away, and it may be. I'm not known for making good financial investments, especially in technology. I mean, technology is one of those things where you buy it, and then 2 years later, the thing's worth nothing because something 10 times better comes out. Well, I may actually have something with this Nintendo Classic. You pay $50 or $60 for it, and the thing may actually go up in value because there's not many out there. I don't know. Maybe I've got a good investment. It might have been the first one I've made in a long time. But anyways, yeah, that is some I don't know, some big news. And for some odd reason, that news actually, out of all the video gaming news in the world, like that's becoming the mainstream stuff. These, like literally, you go on to MSN.com or the front page of Yahoo. Nintendo Classic going away, Super Nintendo Classic coming. Like, out of all the gaming news, that's what they choose to cover. So, I don't know. Maybe it's the nostalgia. I have no idea. But we do have an amazing interview with Naomi Kyle to get to. You guys are going to love this. We've got, we've... I don't know. Her and I wrapped out for about an hour on just all things, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Before we get to that, got a couple more partners to tell you about. And one of the big ones that came on board the beginning of this year, and it's a company that I actually use, is Blue Apron. And, the cool thing about Blue Apron is not only do you get these meals, these meal kits, hand-delivered to your door, but they're high quality, super high quality, use the best ingredients, and not all ingredients are created equal. Fresh, high-quality ingredients make a real difference, so it's important to know where your food comes from. Blue Apron has established partnerships with over 150 local farms, fisheries, and ranchers across the United States. As a result, you have seafood that is sourced sustainably under standards developed in a partnership with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch. The beef, chicken, and pork come from responsibly raised animals, and the produce is sourced from farms that practice regenerative farming. Blue Apron can also be delivered to 99% of the continental United States. And because Blue Apron ships the exact amount of each ingredient required for a recipe, they reduce food waste. And, these meals, they're affordable for less than $10 per person per meal. Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. I am a fan of Blue Apron. I was before they became a partner on the podcast, and now, even more so, I am a fan. You know why? Because you can get 3 free meals with free shipping. That's right. Because this podcast, they're giving you guys 3 free meals with free shipping. All you have to do is go to blueapron.com/beaver. You'll know how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. And trust me, I am a horrible cook. Absolutely the worst. I can make peanut butter and jelly and grilled cheese. That's about it. Blue Apron, they've made me a chef. Seriously, it's actually edible when I cook it. So all you have to do is go to blueapron.com/beaver. That's blueapron.com/beaver, and you'll find out that Blue Apron is a better way to cook. That's blueapron.com/beaver. It's 3 free meals with free shipping. And also another amazing partner that stepped up into this podcast is audible.com. And, the listeners of Project Action, Audible is going to be offering you a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. You know me, big fan. I know we talked about this in the past of the Divergent series, right? Love the movies. Absolutely love the movies. I'm one of those, day one, I'm there to watch the Divergent movies when they hit the theater. But the book series, even better than the movies. Generally, that's the way it works, right? The books are better than the movies. Well, the good thing about Audible.com, they have the entire Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I know I have been fortunate to actually watch the movies and became such a fan of the series. I've gone back, listened to all of the books through Audible.com. And you can get your free audiobook. All you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/action. Again, that's audibletrial.com/action for your free audiobook and 30-day free trial. That's audibletrial.com/action. And thanks to all you guys for tuning in. And I know you guys have been waiting. I've been hyping up this Naomi Kyle interview for the past 30 minutes, right? Well, I am finally ready to give that to you guys. So if you've listened through the news and the notes and the advertisements, you are in luck because we're going to get to that Naomi Kyle interview right after this quick message from Podcast One.
My name is Raven, professional wrestling superstar, world-class idiot, and raconteur extraordinaire. Join me for my new podcast, The Raven Effect. Every Monday here on the Jericho Network on Podcast One, we'll be covering current events and any and all topics that can be properly bantered. Download and listen to the show on PodcastOne.com, the Podcast One app, or subscribe on iTunes. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
All right, I'd like to welcome Naomi Kyle to the show. How's everything going, Naomi?
Everything's awesome. I am so excited to be a part of your show, and I'm hearing a lot about you, and I'm learning a lot about you. So excited to talk about, I guess, what got me here and everything.
Yeah, it scares me. What are you hearing about me? Like, is it good, bad? Like, I don't know. But
we're gonna find out.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
gonna find out. No, it's all good. It's all been great, and definitely has been an opportunity that I've been waiting for. I haven't kicked off the year with anything other than like a written interview, so it's exciting to be able to talk to your audience and let them in on a little bit of what makes me me.
Yeah. No, and that's what's funny because like you figure somebody like you're in the online space, you know what I mean? And like I did a quick iTunes search, you know what I mean? Like you would have figured, I was like, oh, Naomi's one of those that she's probably, does 15 podcasts a year, interviews and stuff like that. And I pulled it up and you've done some, but I'm like, oh man, it's not like you've done a massive amount. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. Maybe we can step out of the box here and do some questions that maybe you don't get asked all the time. So
yeah, no, it's great.
So, yeah, I mean, kicking things off here, I know one of the things, like, when I put this podcast together, I was like, I really want to do interviews with some fun people, some out-of-the-box stuff, and you're somebody that I've followed, I think, on social media and IGN since, I don't know, for quite some time, because I'm in action sports and the motorsports world, but, I'm still, like, I've played video games my whole life, and, so I've always been kind of frequented, IGN, and it was like you popped up, and so I start watching your stuff, and I'm like, she would be totally fun for an interview, but your story, how you got here, to me is really interesting. I mean, we'll talk about gaming and, and a bunch of current events and things like that, but I mean, you grew up in Canada. I mean, how was that? I mean, how did you get where you're at? Because this is a male-dominated industry, and, I know from what I understand, I mean, there was some cold calls on your part, like sending DVDs and things like that, or to IGN offices, correct? I mean, take us back to the beginning and how you got to where you're at with IGN now.
Yeah, well, to answer your first kind of question about growing up in Canada, the part that I grew up in, especially Quebec overall, it's different than the rest of Canada. There's a different culture. It's completely the government and everything is just, it's not what you'd expect out of a Canadian province because of the French language and how, the government there really wants to keep a hold on it. So it felt a little like, coming to the big city now, looking back, I do think that I was somewhat, secluded, or I was, cut off from what a lot of, the rest of the world gets to see, or at least, you guys in America do. And so when I was a kid, I was I don't know, it was a small town. You'd look at the small town that I'm from and my family, and you wouldn't think I would be in the position that I am now at all. You'd think like I'd still be living there, probably raising a family. It was that kind of town. So I think growing up in a small town, there's not much to do. So obviously gravitated towards games at a young age. All my friends had the newest consoles. My parents were all about being outdoors, so they didn't get me a console for a while until I finally pressured them into doing it. And then just learned a lot about games from there at a young age. And then one of the things about the small town I grew up in, which is a small town called St. Agathe, is there's no colleges, or there's no English-speaking colleges. So if you want to continue your education, you have to move to Montreal. So I was 17 when I got my first apartment, when I got my first roommate, when I started college, totally, completely new to the fast-paced, city lifestyle. And Montreal's pretty slow compared to the rest of the world when it comes to their metropolis cities like New York and San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I started working at a music store there. I did it for 4 years. It was like one of my first jobs that I got in the city, like after a month of living there. And it's Steve's Music Store. It's kind of known in the Canadian space, in the country. But I started there, learned a lot what I had to learn about, being social and meeting all sorts of different types of people, different egos. And then went through college, was able to pick up a small part-time modeling side gig. And I was still into games, still playing games on the regular. And so when it finally came time for me to just find a career path, I was lucky enough to audition for a Game Loft podcast that was being shot once a month. It was a tiny podcast. It only got 25,000 views, which I know doesn't sound like to an average person, but for a company, that's pretty small. And that's over time, would get that amount of views. And so I was working on the video team for a year and a half, and I was starting to look what's next from here? Because of course, at a young age, you're kind of always looking at what's next. And I was able to kind of keep my eye on IGN, keep my eye on different companies that were in the media space and in games. And it actually was a complete surprise to me when I hadn't even started the process of applying to these places, where someone messaged me on Facebook. It was actually Ty Root, the head of the video team at IGN at the time, who messaged me on Facebook and was like, hey, I have this opportunity to work for IGN and I would love to discuss with you the process to see if you'd be a good fit. And I was like, wait, this has got to be a lie.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Who's pulling my leg here?
Yeah, exactly. It was through Facebook, so at the time, social media was pretty new, and it was hard to trust that was a real thing. Someone must have found out. I was looking at IGN or something. I was trying to pull a prank, but no, it turns out it was official, and they made me go through the audition process, and there's a lot more detail and nuanced things there that happened, but got my visa, and then the next thing you know, I start working here, and my first day is E3, and
thrown to the wolves.
What?
I said thrown to the wolves. Your first day is E3. Wow.
Yeah. You put it perfectly. It's thrown in the wolves, thrown right into the fire pit.
Yeah.
And, hope you get out alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot. That's the short and quickened version. I can go into detail about every little aspect of that, but yeah, that's the gist of it. That's what got me here, and of course, my knowledge of gaming and being a really driven person, having been given this opportunity and coming from a family that never left their hometown, so and still live there. Yeah. So I was the first one to kind of fly the coop and go on an adventure,
Yeah. Do you go back home now and you know what I mean? It's everybody in your hometown knows exactly what you're doing, and it's oh, I saw you here, I saw you there. And it's you're the super celebrity back home.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe some of the things. Okay, so my dad's my super fan, and he's a talker. So he'll go around town, and any store he walks in, he'll know people, and any business he works for or goes into. And he'll drop my name, and he'll show videos and get everyone involved into kind of what I do, and tell everyone that I'm living out in the big city in California and San Francisco. And so I go back home, and they're hey, we want to take you to, because they put a Walmart recently. Not a good thing, actually. It did kill our smaller town, but it was the biggest thing when I first had gone back after my first year, where they're yeah, we're going to take you to Walmart. There's a few people I've been talking to them about you, and they want to meet you. And so I had to do the little tour of the small town that we live in to meet and speak with those people, because he always tells me how he'll tell these stories and he'll show photos and things, but so many people are nah, that's not real. He's making this up. Yeah. So to prove, he kind of has to prove, and my mom too has to prove that I'm real. And so whenever I'm in town, they're hey, let's make a pit stop at Walmart, or let's make a pit stop at a gas station that I know the guy who cleans my windows. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know
A
what's
little bit like that, definitely.
Yeah, you know what's funny too is something you said, and it's so weird because you talked about being driven and things like that, and this is just like a personal
Yeah.
observation, but I know, so like going back to a little bit, so my publicist is a Canadian woman. My teammate in my
Okay.
race car is a Canadian woman, and then I've also got my national co-host is a Canadian woman. And it wasn't like this was planned, but I'm surrounded by like all these Canadian women in my life, right? And they're all just good friends
Yeah.
and good people. But I've learned that there's something about Canadian women, the work ethic and the drive for some reason is so much different than here in the
Yeah.
United States. And it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about American women or anything. It's just there's something about people that grow up in Canada, and it's the same for the men, but there's just a work ethic and a drive. And it's not to
Yeah.
say you don't find that in the United States, but it's just something different that I found. And I mean, it's like, it's like they see something out there and it's like they're after it. It's like, that's mine. Nobody's going to get it from me. I'm going to grab it and take it, and it's so funny to hear you say that because it's just an observation I've made,
Yeah, and I don't know, like I would be like the least expert on this subject,
Yeah.
but the least the person the least knowledgeable about this. But like there definitely is something. Even some of my close friends back home have that same drive. Like all my girlfriends and people I've met along the way. And I don't know if it's just they're not ever. Maybe there is like a different cultural reason why that happens. But it is fascinating to see like. Just how and just Canadians in general have that drive and they're very successful when they come to the States too. Like you can like some of the biggest comedians and some of the biggest like musicians and I don't know if we just like it's part of the conversation or we're taught at a young age you can really reach for the stars and there's nothing wrong with that. We're not put ideas in our head about like it's like you'll never make it or like my mother was extremely just the strongest person in my family. My grandmother even more so. They're just powerful. Like they're my dad's kind of like he's shy, and that's his thing. But he talks a lot. It's a weird thing that part of his personality. But my mom and my grandmother, you meet them and they're just like they have such strong personalities. And my mom has always taught me at a young age, like. I'm never going to tell you what to do. Like, really pick what you want to do for the rest of your life, and I'll support that, And that was just my upbringing. I don't know if it's the same for everyone else there. And especially in Quebec, if people are raised only speaking French, like I'm sure there's a limitation there for them because they come to the States and now they have to learn a whole new language. But I was lucky enough both my parents were bilingual, and that helped too, because And I did have sort of a French, a little French tone to my voice.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you ever experienced that when you move places where you go to a new place and all of a sudden you develop a new accent. But it's subconscious. Like, you don't really catch as to why that happens. But it happened to me because you could tell I was, like, French speaking when I would speak English. And now that's completely gone since I moved here.
But is it one of those things when you go back home, though?
That took a tangent, but...
Yeah, is it one of those things when you go back home, though, and you're there for a week or so, it comes back?
Yeah. Or I'll really notice the difference when my mom speaks English versus how I speak English, or my sister, So there's that change in because you go home and Quebec, I don't know if you've ever been. Have you ever been there?
No, haven't
or
been
like
to Quebec,
Montreal? No. Yeah, because I mean, it's very much what people say it is. It's this European little nook in North America. It has this European vibe. They speak a different language. Everything's kind of different, and it has its own thing going separate from the rest of North America. And so you go there, and it's like it's almost surprising to know that there's a place like that, just kind of in the middle, like smushed between the rest of Canada and the States. But yeah, you'll go back home and you'll like everyone's speaking French, and there is like a moment where I go back home and I'm like, oh, I kind of miss the French language, and but no, like it's there's a difference there in how the English spoken language sounds compared to here, and of course the States have a variety of different accents and in the English language, but yeah. Anyways, going off about language accents and stuff, but yeah.
No, it's the same way here in the States, though. I mean, you can go to certain areas of the country, or you can be traveling and meet somebody, and you'll be like, "Oh, I know you're from down south, or you're from the Northeast,
Mississippi,
it's there's just certain things. Hey, you're from Minnesota, it's just one of those things where you can tell, you just pick up on things, and I think there's areas of the country that are almost like a small country within a country, and I can see that with Quebec and Canada. It's just there's differences.
Definitely.
Yeah. So going back to kind of you though, and bringing up. So you were talking about getting kind of dropped into the fire at E3. Let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Because IGN all of a sudden, not that what you were doing wasn't big time, but I mean dropping into IGN as far as being in the gaming media. I mean that's about as big as it comes. I mean dropping into that. I mean I know video game fans can be vicious. I mean it's just I mean how was that for you? I mean, do you feel like there was a ton of pressure on you? And I know, especially because you were kind of replacing, I think, Jessica at that point in time had kind of moved on to other things, and she was pretty popular.
Yeah.
I mean, did you feel a lot of pressure coming in?
Yeah, it was scary. Because, I had been watching just, as I was doing my research. This was way before I even got the job. Yeah. And, seeing where she was at in her career and the shoes I had to fill, when I did finally get the offer and I was, accepted into the IGN family. There was huge pressure for me to, develop a personality. And she has this strong, I'm hosting, but I sound like I don't care, but I do care. And I know everything about video games. I'm like the coolest chick. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just love video games, and I've kept it relatively a part of my, home life, but I've never gone out and put it out there. And so I had to, buckle under the pressure and to just kind of, it was like a rocket ship that was going, and I was just barely hanging on, because I was like, what am I doing? First off, I'm completely new to this. I'm doing a live show at E3, the most watched, biggest show in gaming of the year. And I'm, working for the most renowned video game company in the world, and everyone's watching me. What if I fail this miserably? So, of course it wasn't perfect, my first time working that show, because I had barely learned how to read a prompter at that point. I had barely had experience doing live discussions or anything along those lines. So, and I was meeting people that I was I idolized, Ken Levine, right off the bat. So not only am I starstruck, I'm also under pressure. I'm also super nervous because of everyone who's watching me. And I, kind of had a shy personality at that time. I hadn't completely grown into my own, and I was still figuring things out. So that was an intense show for me, but I got through it, and everyone was very supportive. I think the cool thing about IGN is everyone's a family. Everyone knows this job's hard, and you go through a lot, especially how the gaming industry can be. It's just it can be brutal. Not to mention the internet's brutal. So you have to look at that and try to develop a strong skin. But I think after that show, nothing could take me away from it. The fact that I'd gone through E3 was okay, now I can finally breathe.
Yeah.
Everything else after this should be a breeze. And it kind of was. I was able to develop friends and friendships around the office and work on the show, The Daily Fix, which was a lot more, we could take multiple takes and it's good, we'll get it edited and stuff. And of course now I'm so used to it where it's it's how I breathe air, it becomes second nature. Yeah. But that was intense, meeting some cool people, seeing how big the show was. I'd never been there, seeing all my favorite games and some of the developers, Ubisoft. And, it's kind of like an experience with added, nervousness. And because if you go to E3 for the first time and you're a fan and you don't have any work to do, it's fun and you're going to love it. But then if you're going there and you're working, there's just it compounded by the fact that, I was completely new to the job and everything. But yeah.
I'm at E3, and then you're like, holy crap, I'm getting paid to be here. It's whoa.
That was the other thing, yeah. Yeah, day one, doing the live show. First legitimate video game company job. First it was my career. It was
Yeah.
the start of my career, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
and talking about the daily fix, I know, you're talking about, kind of making it your own and stuff like that. And one thing like watching, I've always like, I watch it almost because I love your humor, because after, you do whatever you're supposed to be doing, then you've always got some comment, and it always gets a chuckle out of me because I know you're just totally shooting from the hip there, but it's probably what's really on your mind, and I've always found that funny. But one thing I know, me, having to do TV voiceovers and doing a radio show every week, a national radio show, and then a podcast every week and stuff like that. Like, there's some days I go into the office, or I go in to do TV, and it's like, it's been a bad day, or it was a bad night the night before, and it's like you're down, and it's like, all right, it's like you've got to flip the switch, you've got to put on the smiley face for at least, and that's one thing I've always loved is like you bring that energy one way or another, and I know there's got to be some days that are really hard to bring that, but you've been really good at flipping that switch. And other people I've noticed in media, sometimes like it shines through. You can tell, oh, they're not having a good day, but you've really been good at being able to flip that switch.
Thank you. Well, that's super sweet. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, you totally, you get it because you've done it yourself. Like I mean, I've gone through some stuff like, in my private life, you guys wouldn't even know the half of it, like, or the audience wouldn't even know the half of it. But like, it's something that people at IGN know. And, it's not something I want to like put negative energy towards or like bring out as, if I'm shooting a show, I have to get past it, and there's days it's been a struggle. Thank you so much for being so nice. Saying like, it looks like I'm fine every day, and I'm able to bring that energy. And it's true. Like some days I'm surprised when I watch a show that I shot, and I know what's been going on, internally or like personally, and I'm like, oh, I was able to get through that. Wow, like I actually you can't even tell. You look at me, and I'm like, making cracking jokes and smiling at the end of the show, and you wouldn't be able to tell, but it's definitely something you develop. Like I think after doing it, I've done it for 6 years now, you kind of it is like a switch, you kind of you go into the office and it comes second nature, and you're like you kind of there's a job to do, and you kind of forget that there's all this other stuff going on in the background. Sometimes it's harder days, like it's harder on certain days than others, but you kind of have developed this on-camera persona, or this like way of doing your job that is just so, it's like a switch. You turn it on and you go through the thing, and then it's over, and then you're able to go back and resume back to your daily, what have you. So but it's not to say like, some days it's like really hard, or some days I don't want to be doing this, but it's because you're human, no one's perfect. But I do think about that, and it's become easier and easier. Like the more and more I do this, the more and more I'm able to really shut off the, whatever's on my mind before the shoot, and bring a completely different energy. Because at the end of the day, it's about making a show, and the show must go on, and it's show business in some ways, it's the internet, but it's still show business. And you want to deliver something that the fans are going to, or like just your audience is going to want to see and love, and that you're not taking that away from them, because you're kind of doing it, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing without them. And I enjoy making the show as well. Like I've developed such a love and like an understanding of what we do, and I write more, and I do more of the off the script jokes, and that's because I have fun doing that. And having a job that you love and that you're passionate about and that fulfills you can help you through some of those tough times for sure. So but thank you so much for saying that. I always look on top of it and like completely
I think
happy.
It's an observation from somebody who, makes a living kind of like you do. And it's like, I know how hard it is for me some days. And it was like, I don't think people can really put it into perspective until you've been there and walked in those shoes. But I know how hard it is. And I watch enough of your content that I go, she's really figured this out, and I, like you said, there's things that, me in my personal life, I can't say, on air, and I'm not going to. And it's like, but you just, you've got to learn to flip the switch. Some people have figured it out, and obviously you're one of them. And it was just an observation, and I just thought I'd bring it up because you do a hell of a job at it.
No, I appreciate it. It's nice to hear, it's nice to hear that because, sometimes you're like, oh man, like I must have sucked on that show,
exactly,
and I must have done a terrible job here. I could have done so much better, Naomi. You always are like your worst critic, and that's good to hear. Thank you so much for saying that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, how's it been for you too? I mean, talking about, women in the gaming industry. I mean, this has been a male-dominated industry for so long, and I mean, even you look at video game characters, and I think we've seen recently a turn made, especially, like the new Lara Croft. You know what I mean? She's become more of a strong female and not overly sexualized and things like that. But how has it been you? I mean, to be kind of a voice, for women in gaming. I mean, it's probably not something that you wanted to be, but you know what I mean, originally, but it's like you've morphed into that. I mean, how's that been for you?
For me, it's been really a positive experience. Just, I don't know that that's, how should I say, I'm trying to figure out how to, deliver this idea, but I think for me, there's, being a woman in the position that I am in the industry, like I see everything. I've been in those positions where I'm in a meeting with a group of, they're all 35-year-old white males, and it's like a group of 5, and I'm just the only girl in the meeting, and I've come across that several times, or people say, you're not just a pretty face, or, things like that, where it's like, okay, or they'll offer me a position that's like, well, that's completely below my grade, like, do you know what I do? Or they'll make assumptions, and just based off the kind of culture that we are surrounded by constantly as women, or be part of a boys club. Like, that's been a part of my life ever since I can remember, since working at Steve's. I was the only girl, selling guitar picks, but everyone else were these rock star dudes. And, so I've had to assimilate and figure out how to navigate that without the support of other women. But what's good about, working for IGN, but also working as my own brand is IGN's been really good about hiring, not picking and choosing, but just really giving women a shot at working here. And so I've seen where it was just me and one other girl working between both the video team and editorial when I first started in 2011. And now it's almost 50-50. There's women and men working together, and it doesn't feel so much like a boys club as it used to. And I think it's just been great, and I feel very lucky that I was part of, I was able to see the evolution of that and be kind of at the kickstart of this whole dialogue that we're seeing in society. It wasn't really super prevalent the first 2 years, just as an example. And then it really started kicking up, and where everything started being about, it just started being a part of the conversation. And I've read up on things, and I've tried to educate myself as someone who's a woman in the industry, but how to really help other women succeed and not be a support system versus what I've seen is women will work together, but they'll always be competing against each other versus really supporting each other. And so I've been such an advocate and trying to push for more of that. So every new person who joins the office or every new woman I see in the industry, there's no hard feelings there. I am so supportive of you, regardless of what it is you do, or what your opinions are, or, and I try to see it as just let's just keep elevating. And I'm just feel very lucky to be in a position where I can talk about it and have a platform and an audience. I've gone on panels and talked about this, and to be a part of the dialogue. And it also feels, and I'm just very lucky to be in a company that isn't surrounded by it's not like a boys club. But I've gone to companies where that's the case, and I always am I'll see, or I'll spot another woman who's maybe the only one, one of 20, and she'll come up to me, or I'll be introduced to her, and I'll try my best to really give her the time of day and talk to her and talk about her dreams and really make her feel like she's doing something great. 'Cause she is, just being a woman in a male-dominated industry. The more we elevate these women, the more there will be a conversation about it, and the more we'll see it develop into now it's men and women working together, and they're all equals. And that's the end goal,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think I've noticed that too,
yeah.
and not necessarily just the video game industry, you know, but you mentioned, you know, a few years back it was like kind of the turn started happening, and I know, you know, in both motorsports and action sports communities as well, not just, you know, female drivers, but on-air talent and personalities and athletes, and, you know, it's like I've seen that turn, and whereas, you know, you would see, you know, 9, you know, male figures to 1 female, now it might be, you know, 6 to 4 or even, or, you know, so it's like I've seen that, and it's rightfully so. I think, you know, there's been, you know, a changing, you know, of the guard, or however you want to put it, but I see, like, you know, women now getting those opportunities they didn't get before, and that they deserved, but it's like, you know, they're being viewed differently, you know, being viewed as equals finally, and I think that's a big step for, you know, not only the industries but us as a society.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're looking at both men and women who are equally qualified, and we're giving it the job to the best person in that scenario. We're not saying, oh, well, he's a guy, so that's our obvious choice. Like, we're really taking the time to think through, like, who we're involving in our businesses, and this is everywhere. Like, it's not just gaming, like you said, and it's just creating a really positive kind of change in the dynamic of how business has been for several years, and still is in some, you know, in some businesses. They still run with that mentality, and they you know, they set themselves back, and they're being called out too, which is good, you know, because people will see that and they'll be like, hey, what the heck? Like, why can't a woman be doing this job? You know? And I see that in the acting entertainment world too. Like, I was just listening to, do you listen to the Nerdist podcast?
Yes, I can't, it's in my, I'm subscribed. I can't say I listen to every single episode, but I catch it when I can.
No, me neither. But every now, and then I'll catch it. And, like, Allison Williams brought up how, you know, in entertainment, she'll be like, hey, can I play the role of the doctor? Like, there's a guy here playing, like, when she has the choice, she'll be like, oh, I want to play the doctor. It looks like you guys have a guy in the script. Can I play the doctor? And they'll all be like, no, you know. But she brings it up every chance she gets, because, like, why can't it be a girl as a doctor? Like, what difference does it make, you know? Yeah. So, and just the fact that all genders are being considered in every discussion we're seeing throughout business, and that was my 2 cents about that. But yeah, it's exciting. It's a good time. It's a good time to be discussing that, and especially with everything that's going on in the world besides that. Yeah.
Well, you know, in talking about trends, is kind of switching gears here a bit, but, you know, you've been one, I know, like, you know, I've witnessed literally in the past 5-6 years, and probably about the time you went into IGN, and it was about the time I started actually doing radio and TV and podcasting professionally, but social media has become so big. I mean, it was there before. I mean, there was always Facebook, MySpace before that, and Twitter, but it seems like it's so dominating now, and I know, like, I mean, I've got X amount of posts I've got to do this day and that day and this day, and and numbers are so driven by what happens on social media, you know, with content and things like that. And I know you've been one that's, you know, been pretty up on the trends. I mean, you know, what is your approach to social media? Because, I mean, you're always putting out, you know, different content. It's not like it's a stale, same old, you know, this and that. But, I mean, how have you approached social media, and how have you seen that trend, you know, and that shift where it seems like everything, it's, you know, whether you put up an amazing article on IGN or not, it's like you've got to share it on social first to get the traffic over to IGN to actually, you know, see it or view it.
Yeah. I think, for just as a general look at social media, like, I think it's great that uniqueness is becoming such a big part of it, and that's kind of my approach. Like, not only do I have a lot of fun, like, my thing is I really like social media, and I'm just a fan of being able to create things, like, on, like, the fly. I don't have to get approval for it through, like, my managers. I can just go for it and create something crazy and unique and different, and it won't be as high budget as, like, what I'm normally a part of, but it'll convey the message, and it'll be funny. So I have a lot of fun entertaining and doing that through social media. But I also think the cool thing about social media overall is that we're seeing so many different types of humor, different types of personalities, different types of people. And the more unique, the more interesting it is, and the better. And I think that that's great, because now we're showing that, you know, you don't have to be part of the status quo. You don't have to be a certain type of person to be liked. You can be really just yourself, and there will be an audience for that. And so my approach is just, well, it took me a while to get to this point because I was kind of like you or like anybody else who kind of starts social media and has to think, okay, how is this good for my business? Like, okay, I have an article going up. Okay, I have a podcast going up. Let me set this up so that I have it on Facebook, Instagram, all these platforms, and get the tone or get like a good headline so that people click it. And so that was like my approach for a long time. And then I just realized like you can really just post about, it should just be anything that you like find interesting in that moment. And to not to filter it, you know, like I think my thing when I first started out was like, I would so have to like think about every tweet and overanalyze what the responses might be and overanalyze everything about the piece I was thinking about posting about. And I realized that, you know, mistakes happen in social media, like you'll typo something. So, and I've kind of learned to let go of like the fear of that happening or the fear of like posting something that people might react negatively to, or the fear of like second guessing a post and be like, oh, you know what? Like I've overthought this. I'm not even going to post it. But now I'm just so like, I'm so trigger happy when it comes to posting on social media. It's true. Like I'll just be like, oh, whatever. I'll put it out there and see what happens. You know, like I've lost the fear of presenting an idea perfectly and more just like letting it go and seeing what happens. And that's been so much, it's just been freeing and it's been really fun. And I've been exploring different platforms. Like I've been doing Musical.ly recently, which I didn't really touch for like a long time. I've been doing more Snapchat, and just finding different ways to be creative and just, post about everything. Like there's no limits anymore. Like I don't have to like ask my friend, hey, what do you think of this? You know, I just post it. And, no matter how it makes me look. So I kind of have taken that approach. That's about it.
Well, and I want to talk about that though. Twitch. I know you've been one of the first people that I've seen that I follow that. I think you and Jason Ellis are two of the first people that I follow that I know really well that have jumped into Twitch. And I know, like you, most people think, she's just gaming on Twitch. Like you've taken the complete, total opposite approach, and you're not gaming on Twitch at all. You're doing art and things like that. And you were the one that I looked at Twitch and I always thought it was a gaming platform. I'm like, nobody wants to watch me play video games. They hear enough of me. They don't want to watch me play video games. And then I see what Naomi Kyle's doing. I'm like, all right, so how can I bring this in, you know what I mean, and into my career and what I'm doing. And you were the one that really opened my eyes to it, and I'm like, oh wow, there is a lot I can do with that. Yeah.
Well, you bring up an interesting point because I also wasn't aware of all the like Twitch creative stuff and how interesting that was. Because I was also I was under the impression that everything Twitch did was just gaming related. And I was in a position, or I am in a position, where I'm kind of exclusive to the gaming content that I do with IGN. Like I basically have, you know, everything I talk about games or related to games has to go through the IGN outlet first. And so when I saw like an opportunity for me to get on Twitch, and I was seeing that as a complete like miss on my, you know, resume of social platforms that I've hit on or like been a part of. And I was just like, how do I still do the Twitch thing? And it's interesting to hear from you too, because I guess, you know, I'm just a person who likes games, likes talking about them, has a cool job. And I don't realize sometimes when I do things that this is going to get people watching, and like, it's going to create, it's going to get people to that, like it's going to attract an audience. And so I started doing Twitch Creative, and for me, it was like there was an audience, and people were like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know you guys could do art on Twitch." But thanks for introducing that to me. So I didn't realize I was like kind of being a megaphone for that whole side to Twitch, and I just kind of ran with it, and I like it as an outlet, and I think that it's a really more in-depth way of talking with my audience because it's live and people are commenting, and I can like there's still a distance when you're doing a response on Twitter versus like a direct verbal reaction or reply to somebody's comment, and it's just a deeper connection, you know, and that's really cool. And I like being able to hear direct feedback from my audience when I'm doing something. And to kind of have people be a part of something creative like painting, or, you know, I've done cooking and things like that. but yeah, it's interesting to hear from you. You're like, oh, now I found out that, you can pretty much make Twitch whatever you want it to be. It doesn't just have to be games. So I'm like, now I'm kind of brainstorming what you could do.
Yeah, right.
Given that you're in the motorsports and stuff. Yeah. Like, have you like gone farther to like a brainstorming part of that, or are you just still testing the waters or figuring it out?
Yeah, I've really just started. I don't know. It's like I see they've even got like these automotive channels and things like that, and I'm like, but I don't work on my stuff. Like I do here and there, but I've got guys that do that. I'm like, how can I make this interesting? And it's like, I do Facebook Live and I do some live streams and and answer fan questions and things like that. So it's like, how can we do something different and change it up? And it's I don't know. I'm really surfing through Twitch and looking at everybody's channels and trying to figure out what I want to do, and I haven't found the hook yet. And it's like I'm one of those, like, I don't want to put something out there like in that form unless it's right, and it's like but it may take me some playing with it and just some toying around and and things like that and trying to figure out what works.
Yeah. No, it's a cool platform. And it's like, you do Facebook streaming, which I did touch on a little bit. Like, I tried some Facebook streaming just because they had just announced it. So I was like, oh, what's this? So yeah, like it's cool what you're able to do with everyone, all the big brands, Google, Facebook are trying to like compete for that audience, right? Twitch, obviously is like at the head of the curve when it comes to streaming, but periscoping. It's everywhere. You can create content in any form now. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's like, and it's like, the thing that amazes me is that, like, you can be anywhere in the world and boom, immediately, with your phone, you can be showing people what you're seeing or where you're at. And I think that's, and it's live. It's not like it's some, picture you posted or a video you pre-recorded or something like that. And I think to me, that's what's so amazing about it. I can be at an event or seeing something and witnessing it or being with somebody and be like, oh, let's hit this thing and go, boom, we're live. You know what I mean? And then people are like, oh, wow, you popped up in somewhere we never would have thought you'd be, and I think that's really what's amazing and how, and it's really changing an industry. Live streaming before used to be, oh, man, you got to have a camera and you've got to have a live stream account and you've got to have wires and you got to have a producer and you got to have this. And it was like, man, it was a massive.
Broadcasting was so. Yeah, it's just bulky. It's like a hard thing to accomplish, or it was at the time. Like, you'd have to go through, the TV or the networks, and now it's just there. It's just available at the drop of a hat. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know, but I'm going to continue Twitch streaming for sure. I'm liking it. I think it's a good way to like kind of because it's like I picture it as Twitch is basically your own TV channel, and you could put up anything on there. You can host other people. You can create 24/7. You could, if you wanted, you could come up with like a new show idea going on every week, or like 20 of them, and just fill up your time on Twitch and have something airing every like 24/7. That's like a lot of work, but it's basically everyone has their own network now that they can build through these platforms. It's pretty interesting, and it's definitely where the industry's headed. Yeah, it's like a changing up the whole ball game. Entirely.
And it's like now you've got your live streaming on Twitter, you've got your live streaming on Facebook, you've got your live streaming on Instagram, you can live stream on Snapchat, you've got Twitch. It's like, I think YouTube's doing it now. It's like, holy crap, there's so many different. Now it's like, oh, where do I pick where I want to live stream? That's me. It's like, oh, do I go live on Instagram? Do I go live on Facebook? Which one do I want to use today?
It's really difficult to navigate that. Yeah, because you're given so many choices, and it's. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a crazy world out there right now where creativity can really be just a billion different things. Yeah.
So, kind of switching gears one more time. I know, obviously you've, had a really successful career there at IGN. What's next for Naomi Kyle? I know you've kind of toyed with the acting thing and, you've started doing a bit of acting here and there. Where do you see things kind of moving and morphing?
I think for me, I've been working on some like side projects. I've been even dabbling in music, which is crazy. But yeah, I've been dabbling in creating some music. I'm hoping it turns into an EP down the road. But yeah, the acting thing's been kind of kicking off pretty nicely this year. I was just down in LA on a project that, I can't talk about just yet, but that was an acting role. And so I'm seeing definitely more growth in that department this year. And the Twitch streaming stuff, like that's become a really fun thing that I enjoy doing every evening. Every chance I get, I enjoy putting together a production and having the complete control of making it my own show, different from, what I do at IGN. And so more in that realm for sure, and more art to be made and to be, put out there into the world. So just more ways, more fun, engaging content. Just me being involved in more engaging and fun content, I think will be kind of the highlight of this year. And 5 years from now, who knows? Maybe I'll start my own network or something. But for now, it's continuing with IGN and continuing the Comic-Con and the E3 coverage, and just continuing to talk with awesome people in the industry like you.
Well, thank you. Well, how was it for you too? I know with this, all these doors open, you never know which door's going to open and where, and and sometimes it's a big surprise. I know, like last year, big thing for you, you're one of the first people that got to do the new kind of the PG-13 non-nude Playboy. How was that for you? Because that's a massive brand to be, welcomed into that family.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool thing that I did last year, and a sort of highlight, like to be part of such a recognized, world recognized company like Playboy. And for me, it was twofold. It was, not only was it great to finally do a photo shoot, which I hadn't done in a long time, but with such a reputable company, like that was a total honor and such an amazing time for me to concept that, because I'd come up with the idea to do it at a record store and all this stuff. So I was working with the team. But then also it was great because not only had Playboy shifted into now, not doing nudity at the time, that it was a good time for me to, like, I don't know if I would have done it with them had they still been doing that. Yeah. So for me, it was like, oh, I finally have a way of doing a fun shoot with a reputable company, and it's completely classy and it's fun, But then there was also the fact that everyone I worked with on set that day was a woman. And I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it was great to meet the woman photographer who was working there was excellent. Like, I still follow her on Instagram. She's great. And then working with the makeup artist and the stylist and everybody, working as taking care of lighting for the shots, and it was all women. And I was so honored and blown away by that, because I would have assumed that Playboy would have been mostly men, but no, it was completely female-driven production, and that was really cool. And it was just a day shoot, but the photos that came out of it were great, and it was a complete honor to work with them and to be, like you said, introduced to that family, because I'm totally coming up with the next one, the next shoot, what that concept will be.
You got it in your mind now. It's like wheels are turning, right? Yeah. So.
Sorry?
I said wheels are turning in your mind. I know how it is. You don't know when the next shoot's going to be, but it's like you've already got to figure it out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool, and they allowed me to be very creative in that realm, and what I wanted to do, style-wise, what the concept would be like, and it was just all the pieces came together, and the results were amazing.
Yeah. So before we let you go, I got to ask one gaming question. We've kind of done this whole interview without talking gaming, right? But what are you playing currently? I gotta ask. What are you dialed into?
I'm dialed into Horizon Zero Dawn. I was lucky that I got to interview Ashley Birch, who voices that entire character, Aloy, throughout the game. She does such an amazing job. But yeah, I've been knee-deep into Horizon World. I completed the game. I'm 92% completed.
Nice.
So, but I'm going for the 100% completion, which is why it's taking so long for me to, stop talking about that game, because I'm just always playing it. But it's increments, right? Because I stream 3 nights a week, so I have to find time finish everything, and the things that I have left to finish are super time consuming. Like I have to find data files that I might have missed along the way. I just got the Invisible Shield, which lets you play through the game basically like, God mode.
Yeah.
And that's just been all I've been after lately. I really want to get to playing more Zelda on the Switch, but Horizon's kind of been taking up my time. Yeah, that's been it for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
What about me? I've got, I don't know, I've got a stack of, I'm crazy. Like right now I'm at home, so I've got like a stack of games sitting there, and I haven't bought a new Switch yet, but it's one of those things where it's like I've got Zelda. It's like I never had a Wii U, so it's like now I get to revisit Mario Kart and all this other stuff. So it's like I haven't even gone that direction yet because I've still got this, literally a stack of Xbox One games there. I'm still,
backlog.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've got like the new Mass Effect. I'm a massive Mass Effect fan, so I really want to play through that. So that's kind of at the top of the list. I've still got some. The second new Tomb Raider I've got to play through, and so I've got, I don't know, there's some stuff, and it's like, and I'm considering a PS4. I don't even own a PS4, but I was a massive fan of the Persona series, and it's like, so it's like, do I go out and buy a PS4 just so I can play the new Persona, So, and I'm not even a JRPG fan. It was just, there's something about Persona that I really, really liked, and I was able to play it on a Vita when I was traveling, so it made it nice because I just, threw the Vita in the backpack, and you've got a 5-hour flight, so you just knock out a big chunk of Persona, so I was able to do that, but it's like, now it's like, man, I wish they didn't make it portable again. So it's like, please come out with a Switch or something. That way I can take it with me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, that's cool. You should definitely get a PS4 though.
Yeah. No, I had,
professional opinion.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I've got an Xbox One. I've got a Switch. It's like, I had a PS3. It's like, so it's like I haven't got the PS4 yet, and I just need to. They're cheap enough. There's no excuse other than I just haven't done it. So. So there you go.
Well, let me know what you think of Persona 5 when you get to it, and if you ever play Horizon 2.
Yeah, no, I've heard enough about it.
That
one, that's at the top of the list right now. Literally, I think it's going to get plugged in tonight, so we're going to kick that thing off. So I'm finally home for like a month, so I can kind of start doing some of this stuff. So get caught up on the games. So. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Naomi. Lots of fun. I'm like, man, I could have made this a 2-hour interview. So I'm feeling already like, I don't know, maybe after E3 I'll have to hit you up. We'll have to do like part 2 or something like that because we didn't even get into the whole gaming side of things. So
let's book it.
Yeah, we'll definitely we'll definitely have to stay in touch and knock another one of these out sometime. So it was too much fun. I think you and I could talk for quite some time. So.
Awesome. Well, I had a great time talking with you as well, and I'll be listening to this podcast from here on out.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Bottom dollar.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Naomi, and we'll definitely talk soon. Man, such a fun interview with Naomi Kyle. I can guarantee you, I think you're probably going to hear, more of her in the future here on Project Action. Ton of fun with somebody who. Man, she's all over the grid. And speaking of Twitch, I think, that interview was pre-recorded. I've actually got the whole wheels in motion now for my own Twitch channel, right? So, I think I actually hired a producer. We're actually going to be producing some content, some live streaming, like my interviews here on Project Action. The entire Down and Dirty radio show on Tuesdays, we're going to live stream that on Twitch TV. So if you want to get in on that, we're probably, you know me, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. And so we're probably, I'd say, about a month and a half away from making this whole thing a reality. But I have set up the channel. If you guys want to go and follow me on Twitch, it's at JimBeaver15. And you guys get all the updates when we're going to start live streaming. And I'm going to bring Twitch to, I don't know, I'm going to be all over the grid with that thing. Like, we're going to have some fun with it. So definitely at JimBeaver15. You can give me a follow at JimBeaver15. It's the same on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Give me a follow, and much appreciated. And like I said, I'm an open book, to you guys. You can use the contact form on my website at downanddirtyshow.com. But I like hearing from you fans. I like guest suggestions and, kind of knowing, knowing where your heads are at, what some of the guests are, some of the things you like about the podcast, you don't like. And, speaking of which, you guys can go and rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. And if you leave that review, I will, in that review, if you leave your Twitter, Instagram @username, I will follow you back. I promise to you. So definitely, leave those reviews, and don't forget to leave that social media handle so I can follow you back. Speaking of following on social media, my guest today, Naomi Kyle. You should give her a follow as well. It's at Naomi Kyle, and that is her Twitter, and that is her Twitch. You definitely want to follow her on Twitch. That is her Twitter and Twitch handle. YouTube and Instagram, or not Instagram, but YouTube and Snapchat is also at Naomi Kyle. It's the Naomi Kyle fans, or the Naomi Kyle on Instagram, and at Naomi Kyle fans on Facebook. So it's at Naomi Kyle, YouTube, Snapchat, and Twitter, and Twitch. It's the Naomi Kyle on Instagram and Naomi Kyle fans on Facebook. Hopefully I got them all right. So she's all over the grid, though. Massive social media following. Definitely worth the follow. Big thanks to her. Big thanks to all our partners here on on Project Action. Thanks to Podcast One for keeping us out there. And man, thanks to all you guys for listening each and every week. Much appreciated. I know we've got a lot of great interviews coming up here on Project Action. We're going to be all over the grid. I know I just got hit up with another request for one of the most amazing rock bands of all time here on Project Action. Literally, as we're doing this podcast, I'm reading email, right? And it's popped through. So I don't know. We're going to be all over the grid. Some more rock and roll, some more action sports, some more video gaming, some more racing. It's going to be a fun ride. Thanks to all of you guys. We're going to sign off on this one just like we do each and every week. Be safe. As always, game on.
What's the quirkiest thing your dog does? Are they post-bath Zoomers or warm laundry snugglers? Whatever they do, we love them more for it. And with Stewart All Natural Treats, you can feel good rewarding them for who they really are.